This is Saturday Morning Mysteries.
And we're your hosts, Alexis and Grace.
Good morning and welcome to another spooky Halloween episode of Saturday Morning Mysteries, where we are your hosts. I'm Grace.
And I'm Alexis.
And we are still celebrating Halloween via true crime cartoon retellings, remixings, reimaginings, blah, 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 et cetera, et cetera. And today, to bring us in to the final throes of Halloween, we have Alexis. I'll just pass to you. Take it away. I have no idea what to expect.
Grabbing it. Yes. I was going to say, I don't really know what to expect either, because I'm very, very excited for today's episode. And when I get excited about things, sometimes my mind works like 10 times faster than my mouth can keep up with. So we'll see how this goes, because today we're just going to have so much fun with today's episode. Like you said, we're culminating our celebration of the month of October. If my math is correct, a couple of days after the airing of this episode today, we will be celebrating Halloween. So naturally, we're going to do something very fun today. We're going to kind of have what I want to call like a spooky-ception, Halloween-ception, perhaps. Okay. Because today I'm going to be telling you about a Halloween episode of a classic cartoon that is directly inspired by the Halloween episode of an old-time classic radio series. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, Halloweenception. I get it now. Okay.
Yeah, it's a Halloween. Okay. So I'm telling the tale of a Halloween story based on another Halloween story. Okay.
Interesting.
Yes. So today's episode tells the tale of the time that a group of fourth graders sent their entire town into a panic and state of emergency when they convinced said town that aliens were attacking.
Is that an episode of Twilight Zone?
No. Oh man, okay. I wish. I'd be breaking our rules.
Like the original one that it's based on, the radio show.
No, but I could see how there was some inspiration for Twilight Zone, and like
the original Twilight sounds familiar.
Yes, just you wait.
So what show?
We're not going to talk about the radio series just yet, but I will do a deep little dive into that. But first, what show, what cartoon, what classic animated show is this from? It is from none other than the Nickelodeon animated classic, Hey Arnold.
Stop.
Mr. Krabs looking confused meme. The world is spinning.
Oh my God.
Yes. This is the episode called Arnold's Halloween. And it came out October 27th, 1997. Season 2, episode 7 of the show Hey Arnold. And it, as I said, October 27th, it aired as their Halloween special. So typically, and I'm going to do a breakdown of Hey Arnold, a very quick one in just a second, but Hey Arnold is typically like kind of like Courage, where there's an A and B part of each episode. But this was a Halloween special that took up the whole 22-minute block. Nice. So it's, like the full episode is all Halloween. They would do this typically for holiday episodes. So very quickly, since we haven't talked about Hey Arnold on this podcast, and honestly, it's not really a show that would fit into our typical podcast format because it doesn't really involve crime that often enough for us to really talk about it in true crime fashion. So I'm going to just very briefly sum up what the show's about and who the major characters are, so that I'm not just like randomly throwing names in here and people are like,
if someone hasn't seen it. Yeah,
exactly. So for those who are unfamiliar, this is just like per the Wikipedia page, the rundown of the show. It centers on a fourth grader named Arnold. And he is this boy who super wise beyond his years. He's a very likable kid. He's kind of like the moral compass of the show, able to get along with everyone. And he's always like constantly giving advice to folks and like waxing philosophical about life and like the meaning of it. And he really takes burdens of others on himself in hopes of, helping them through their trauma but can sometimes be a little naive in his faith in folks. And by the way, he also randomly has like a football shaped head and like unwieldy blonde hair. Anyway,
so he's a fourth grader.
And he is a fourth grader. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So this kid, he lives with his grandparents in an inner city tenement in the state of Washington. And essentially each episode tells a story about him navigating life in the city while running into shenanigans with his neighbors and his family members and his friends and his classmates from PS 118 is the name of their school, public school 118. But this being a show set in a big city, it also includes this just amazing large cast of characters, and a lot of the episodes kind of honestly explore the side characters' lives more than Arnold's. So, like I said, though, Arnold is generally the main character of the show, but some of the other prominent ones include his grandpa Phil and grandma Pookie, who own and run Sunset Arms, the tenement that they live in, which is essentially like a shared housing unit. It's not an apartment complex, but just a massive house where people rent out different rooms.
Can I, real quick?
Go for it.
Also, just note that in the housing, Arnold had my dream bedroom as a child.
Mm-hmm. Bring it up later. Yeah.
Okay, great. Like the coolest room.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like the attic, like with a skylight. It's just huge. It was just, I don't know how to describe it, except like that is what I wanted as my room growing up.
The dream room. Yeah. Cause like you said, the attic. So he had like the drop down staircase that he had to pull down to get up there. So totally private, amazing decoration, just like all these cool, like radios and like vinyl players and just cool electronics that he always had, and like a sofa that came out of the wall and like folded back in, and dope room. I'm going to talk about it a little bit more later, but cool. Thank you for saying that, because so true. I think every kid at one point who watched Hey Arnold wanted Arnold's bedroom.
I still want it.
I still do. Can I install
in your apartment?
In my apartment, there's like someone who lives above me. Like, we can come to an agreement, right?
That's cool, right?
So anyway, he lives with his grandpa and grandma, Phil and Pookie, who own and run Sunset Arms. And fun fact, I mentioned this in the past, but Grandpa Phil is voiced by like a voice acting legend, Dan Castellaneta, who voices Megavolt and a bunch of other characters and shows we've done in the past. Anyway, Arnold also is commonly joined by his best friend, Gerald, who is this like super smooth, creative, hip with the culture kid, like dope ass afro that stands like 2 feet tall up on his head and is just like always telling the old neighborhood folklore tales and stuff, and is like DJing parties all the time, like the coolest kid. And then often he's always joined by his frenemy. We'll describe her as Helga. And she football head. Yeah, she's this like blonde pigtail wearing very bossy girl in school, and is pretty much like considered a bully. But sadly, she does come from a very like a super neglectful home, and is like high key, not even low key, but high key in love with Arnold, and like to total like, unrequited love. Like he either has no clue, or he's just like, no, you're always mean to me. Like the fuck.
That's how get in love with you.
They do eventually. Anyway, that's a whole other thing. So anyway, and last but not least, we also commonly see a number of residents who live at Sunset Arms, like Mr. Wynn and Ernie, and just so many neighbors and residents there, as well as classmates of Arnold and Gerald and Helga's. So the show originally aired on Nickelodeon from 1996 to 2004, had like 5 seasons, more than 100 episodes, and 2 feature film movies. So it was very, very popular. And honestly, I would say, and Grace, it sounds like you may also hold this sentiment, probably one of my favorite shows growing up, one of my favorite cartoons growing up, for a few reasons. One, the music was absolutely amazing. It was even just like the main like entry music, but also like the actual theme, the score music and all of that throughout the episode or episodes. It's like this blend of jazz and blues and New Jack swing that is just very like the the quintessential 90s music and like kind of like urban like street music. It was just so cool. There was this amazing fictional world I love of all these dynamic and diverse characters who I kind of like alluded to before, because this is the big city, kind of like a hybrid of Portland and like Seattle and Chicago and Brooklyn, maybe like all put together. So you see all these types of different cultures coming together in the show and just interacting as like normal, loving neighbors for the most part. And all of these characters have very grounded stories and character relationships that really give and gave, I guess, kids like something that, in my opinion, was equally positive and humorous to watch. So it wasn't like SpongeBob, where it's really just like slapstick and kind of like bizarre comedy. It was like actual, like really human stories of things that kids could relate to. Like one of the most memorable ones for me is when a kid named Harold he's trying to avoid his bar mitzvah because he's not ready to be considered an adult yet. And it's actually a really touching story about how Arnold gets him to come around and to learn like, no, dude, you can do this. You're mature. You can be a man now, all this. So yeah, very heartstring pulling episodes and stories like that. But one of the most important reasons why I love this show growing up is because, as I mentioned before, they had amazing holiday specials that aired over the course of the series, much like today's episode. And I won't get too far into the weeds, but there was also an amazing Christmas episode that they did. And I don't know if we're going to do the same thing around Christmas, but if we do, dibs on that episode.
Damn
calling it right now. Sorry. Ha, I win.
But yeah, we're probably doing this for Christmas, everyone.
Right, yeah. So just as a heads up, I guess maybe I just spoiled that. But anyway, so before we get further into the Hey Arnold Halloween episode, let's talk about the real world radio series that this cartoon episode is based on. And this, aside from the fact that I'm talking about Hey Arnold today, which makes me so happy, this here, what I'm about to tell you, this little history.
I think I know what you're talking about with this.
I'm more excited about this than I am the actual episode of Arnold's Halloween.
Yeah, because I'll just let you get into it. I was about to be like, I think this is what it is, but I could be totally wrong. So I'll just tell it.
Alrighty. And what's even more exciting about this is that, again, we're airing this, or this is going up on YouTube and on our podcast platforms on October 29th. And the event I'm going to tell you about happened, coincidentally, on October 30th,
the radio show happened?
The radio show.
38. Okay.
30, yes. In the year 1938 at 8 p.m.
Oldie.
I believe that on October 30th, 1938 at 8 p.m., the American public stood witness to one of the greatest pranks and one of the best radio broadcasts to ever hit the airwaves. And that was The War of the Worlds, as directed and narrated by Orson Welles.
Yes. Okay. That's what I thought when you started. Okay. Yes. So excited. And I don't remember the episode of Hey Arnold at all. So I'm like,
oh God.
How are these connected?
This one, as soon as we decided that we were going to do Halloween episodes, I was like, I don't know how I'm going to shoehorn it in, but I have to do the Hey Arnold Halloween. Like this was the very first thing I thought. I love this episode so much. And it wasn't honestly until a couple years ago that I realized this episode was based off of this event, which makes me so happy because, as it turns out, I'm a huge fan of the War of the Worlds. I have had this book forever. Shameless plug. I think I actually stole this from my grade school when I got it out of the library at my grade school and never gave it back because I was like, oh, fuck no, I love this book. They're not keeping track of this. Please don't get me in trouble.
Do you remember when we had to do our like senior year like theses and we had to like get a bunch of books from the library and then you just never returned them and then your bill was like $85
from the public library?
Like downtown.
Oh, no, yeah, I was like, oh shit. What did I do? I did, and I did that actually on Cannery Row That's this book. Now, I actually bought this one. Okay, this was not from the library. Yeah, I'll put that up later. But no, so War of the Worlds, amazing book. The only reason why I have this and why I took it from our library when we were younger is because my older brothers were very into this book as well. And naturally, anything that they did, I wanted to do too. And also because it was around the year that the Tom Cruise film came out, I think 2005. And at that point, since my brothers had already read the book, we also used to watch I think it was, the first film adaptation came out in 1953. Whoa. Which, dope to see them do an alien invasion movie with like technology from the 50s. But anyway, so another reason why I'm excited to do this episode, because I love War of the Worlds. It's like one of the best, most famous science fiction books, movies, all of that stuff ever. So let's talk about this radio broadcast for a minute before we talk about Hey Arnold. So the War of the Worlds, the radio series, it was a Halloween episode and the 17th episode overall of a radio show called the Mercury Theater on Air. And it was an adaptation, obviously, of H.G. Wells's famous science fiction alien invasion novel, The War of the Worlds, which came out in 1898. Side note also, no relationship between H.G. Wells, who wrote the book, and Orson Welles, who narrated and directed the Mercury Theater on Air. Not that I can tell. Their last names are actually spelled differently too. So Wells has an extra E at the end. So I don't believe that they're related. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure they're not. So also just a funny coincidence. They're not going to be mad. Is Orson Welles? He probably is. Unfortunately, because as you will see, he's a creative genius. So the radio show was performed and broadcasted live over the Columbia Broadcasting System radio station, aka CBS. One more super nerdy in the weeds fact, but CBS actually today has evolved into CBS Viacom, which owns Paramount, which owns and programs Nickelodeon, the station that Hey Arnold was on. So it's like keeping it in the family. And apparently they also did both of the movies as well. Paramount did. So maybe Paramount's going to sue us for using War of the Worlds IP in this episode. Our lawyers will be prepared. So anyway, some background here. The Mercury Theater on Air was a radio series of live dramas created and hosted by Orson Welles. He was an actor and a writer and a director. And the program aired retellings of a lot of famous works of fictional literature. So they did like Dracula, they did Treasure Island, A Tale of Two Cities, The Count of Monte Cristo, Jane Eyre, hilariously in line with our Timmy jokes over the past couple of weeks, Oliver Twist. And anyway, so all of these were met with a bit of success, and the program was decently popular. But for their Halloween special in the year 1938, Orson Welles thought that they should do something a bit different. Since they were like kind of getting some cachet with the audience, like, oh yeah, this is a good program. These guys were really talented at making us feel like we're part of a play, or not part of, but that we're listening to a play. So Welles thought, well, let's actually like give them a nice Halloween treat. And instead of making them feel like they are listening to a play, let's put on something that we can make the audience feel like they are actually a part of. Exactly. So to that vein, and keeping in, spirit, the Halloween, spooky, scary kind of theme, Welles decided to adapt the Martian alien invasion story in The War of the Worlds from the 1898 book to the format of like a special bulletin live radio broadcast where he would narrate the events of the book as if they were happening in real time.
Like a newscast, basically.
Like a newscast.
Like breaking
yes,
news.
Exactly. So it would be transmitted to the public via like breaking news coverage and interviews where they would like pull in experts and eyewitnesses and reporters on the scene. And then they would cut in between these breaking newscasts with like actual music playing as if it were like a live non-fictional radio program. So he and the writing team and even the actors had to go like all in to make this seem realistic and to like, yeah, really make it truly work for radio. And apparently the first draft of the show was super rough and the first reading didn't go too well, or like at least to Wells's standards. He thought it was too dry, too formulaic, with like transition of just like breaking news. We're getting this and this and this. We'll be back in a moment to tell you more. And then back to music. He didn't really like the flow of it. So they went back to the drawing board and like rewrote the whole thing in like a day or two, I think, or like a night or two.
Same.
And they decided to add a lot more sound effects. They added more music and longer bouts of music to make people really feel like they were actually enjoying a whole song or something, and then to be like startled with the news report. And they added even more news flashes and eyewitness accounts to the script to create like this sense of urgency and panic and just of people not knowing what's going on and kind of like, oh my God, we're just learning things in the moment, guys. Like we got to pull someone in. And so in addition, the writers actually added in real names of places and towns and like institutions, like scientific institutions, wherever possible, to make the story seem real. Like to the point where I think one of the last drafts of it, I read this, I think it was on the Wikipedia page. The execs read through it and they were still like, yeah, we're going to need to cross off like a good like 30 of these because these may be actionable. You can't use Princeton University and McGill University in the script. So like they would change things like that to like Middletown University or whatever, but like there were still other actual institutions and towns named. So for example, the book War of the Worlds takes place in 19th century England. But in the radio broadcast, they're like, no, let's make it modern day for that time. So 20th century New Jersey. So they ended up setting this in an unincorporated area, a real town that still exists today called Grover's Mill in West Windsor, New Jersey. Yeah. So they were like, oh, let's make this super real. We're not going to make it like across the pond or like some fictional made up place. Like we really want people to think that this is happening. I didn't
realize that it went like that in depth because I only knew about like kind of like the breaking news-esque like nature of this, but I didn't realize that they like tied it all into real life things. I thought people just got like duped by like breaking news sounding things, but they went hard into this.
And Grace, they went even harder. I'm still just getting started.
Oh no.
What's even more impressive, and this to me was like one of the most jarring parts reading this in a good way, like that made me almost like bow down to the creative team when I read that this went into it. To make the dialogue and the pacing just a touch more like perfect, Wells actually called upon the actors to provide tips on what they might say in certain situations or how to best read certain lines to make it seem as if like these were real interviews happening in the moment of the broadcast.
Oh, so it's like in their own voice.
In their own voice,
kind of thing.
Exactly. So not being written by some like producer, director, but actually like people who are going to have to read these lines and stuff, to the point where Grace, one cast member who was playing a reporter took it upon himself, or maybe he was assigned to do this, but in his prep work, perhaps his method acting, preparing for this, he went and researched and studied recorded tapes of the live reporting of the Hindenburg disaster, which happened only 1 year before in New Jersey. So this event that was, yes. So he went and the live report was done by this guy named Herbert Morrison. And I went and I had to listen to it when I was researching for this, or like at least a snippet of it. The guy sounds absolutely terrified because I mean, you look back on it at the time and you're like, oh, giant, like helium, whatever balloon, whatever it was.
He's terrified.
A lot of people died. But like when you compare it to stuff that happened today, it's like, whoa, I mean, oh, guy, calm down, guy, calm down. But like when you listen to it, the guy was in such like trauma and fear and all that watching this. And so the guy playing the reporter in the War of the Worlds radio series decided to study that. Yeah. So that he could evoke that same sense of like terror and fear and just like an uncertainty of like, oh my God, how many people have died? How many more people will die?
Oh my God.
So it was amazing, but let me tell you, unfortunately, this creative determination on behalf of the cast and crew may have gone a bit too far, because when folks tuned in that night, especially those who maybe tuned in a few minutes late and missed Orson Welles' opening monologue, or perhaps like some people switched over during a commercial break for another program. So for some reason, they didn't hear Orson Welles do his opening speech, which made it clear that this was going to, be a radio broadcast. Yeah, for the most part. I mean, it was still, he was in character and narrating, but you don't narrate the beginning of a breaking news, like if you heard him do that and then heard the music start and then heard a breaking news report come in, if you would know, like, oh yeah, no, it's part of the dinner or the theater. Exactly. Yeah. But if you missed that first few minutes and tuned in later,
it's just breaking news.
You're hearing music and you're like, oh, cool. This is interesting. I guess they're not doing the program tonight. Maybe like it's a holiday reason or something. Yeah. And then out of nowhere, breaking news alert coming out of whatever, like they're talking about, I don't want to give too much away about the book, but it came out literally hundreds of years ago, so it's not really a spoiler. But like it starts with people at an observatory noticing explosions on Mars, and that's how, like, that's the first sign that there may be an alien attack or something. Like at first they don't put it together, but that's the first breaking news report that you get on the radio, right? Yeah. So people are just like, oh, whoa, explosions on Mars, that's weird. And then the music comes back on, and then another breaking news report. Like we're getting reports of a crash of whatever in a spherical object in Windsor, New Jersey, or old timey voice. I
love your radio voice. That's great, by the way.
Yeah, thank you. Maybe I should quit my day job. I have a face for radio, as they tell me, or a voice for radio. So. Anyway, some people truly believe that an alien attack was taking place in some small unincorporated area of New Jersey. And reportedly, a lot of people actually took to the street. They were like looking up at the skies, panicking, perhaps looting. And according to some articles, some people committed suicide thinking that it was the end of the world. Now, but I want to say, because I still respect this radio broadcast way too much, many of those claims, if not all of them, are refuted because there can be no like records of deaths from that day found. Okay. But that didn't stop news outlets from putting it on the headlines of their papers for a couple of days after. Exactly. Okay. So the next day after the airing, aka Halloween 1938, the front pages of newspapers were filled with reports such as people killing themselves or, sending towns into a panic and all of that. But to this day, like I said, there's still a lot of skepticism about whether that mass hysteria actually occurred or if the media kind of blew it out of proportion based on sensationalism and the pearl clutching norms of yesteryear of the 30s, whatever, and media decency and whatnot. They were just like, oh my God, FCC, keep off the air. How dare they?
Got it. Nice.
But the show allegedly did not have, even though it was good, it didn't have that many viewers, and there were other popular programs that had the same block on other stations. But that all said, there were apparently at least enough calls to the authorities and to CVS to have, I think, police officers actually showed up at the station and manage the suits, and managers were trying to keep them out so they could finish the broadcast.
Oh my God. Damn.
And in the end, because I guess someone sent a note into Wells during one of the breaks or whatever. And so in the end, he did close his narration of the broadcast by announcing, and what is reportedly in an out of character way for this show, that he didn't normally do this, but he was like, guys, this was nothing more than a shameless Halloween trick. It was, the equivalent of us putting on a cloak and shouting boo from behind a bush, dressing up as a ghost. We're just joking around.
Just a play.
And he did kind of ultimately apologize in a quickly thrown together press briefing the next day, saying he really didn't anticipate the reaction and all of that.
I didn't think y'all were that stupid.
I know, right? But at the same time, he's like, I also didn't know we were that talented. It's like, I know you guys are idiots or we are creative geniuses. I'm fine with either. Column B. So yes, while this was perhaps the greatest Halloween prank in American history, it was also perhaps a little bit overblown by the media, but nevertheless, in my mind, it is still iconic in its own right. And I did actually take it upon myself to go and listen to this broadcast. It's a little less than an hour long, totally worth it. I think that it's like, and I'm not just saying this because I really like the book and like the movies and Hey Arnold and like because I'm trying to overhype this episode. Like it truly actually is. It's super worth listening to for anyone who's into, if you're just into like drama and like theater or science fiction or whatever, like it is actually a very, very good radio broadcast. The way they did it is super good. It's very creative, well done. The acting and the writing is so good. I know I kind of talked about it before, how they had the actors really trying to be original and natural. And just the way that they pull people into interviews, like I can see how people would fall for it if they missed the first few episodes, and then if they were like too busy running like chickens with their heads cut off to hear the end of it, where he's like, just kidding, this was a joke. Chill. Because you literally had people, like a guy playing a reporter would be like, all right, we're on the scene of this giant spherical object and we're going to bring in a farmer who said that he saw what happened. And so this farmer would just like start talking and the reporter would be like, oh, no, come closer. We can't hear you. You got to lean into the mic more. Oh, it was so like so natural and organic. Whoa. Like what someone would, like a farmer doesn't know how to do like a news interview, you know, or whatever. Like maybe that's stereotyping. But yeah, like, no, come closer, sir. We got to hear you. Speak louder, stuff like that. Or like, all right, now we're going to talk to this police officer. And the police officer is like very curt. Like, I don't know. Like we're trying to figure it out. Back up. Like, you know, just everyone perfectly captures. Yeah, it's so good, worth watching, listening, I guess. Yeah, it's on YouTube. There are a couple of videos of the full broadcast on YouTube if people want to go listen. And I suggest you listen because it clearly has a very large part in our pop culture. Because it inspired this episode of Hey Arnold. So now that we know what went down back in the day for real skis, let's talk about how the suits at Nickelodeon and Viacom let some animators retell this tale in cartoon form.
With fourth graders.
So Arnold and Gerald, the besties, they're watching a show about aliens with some of the other tenements or some of the other tenement residents and Grandpa Phil at Sunset Arms. And the show is called UFO Tonight, and it's hosted by this guy named Douglas Kane, who is an investigative reporter and UFO chaser. And funny enough, he actually sounds exactly like Orson Welles as he was narrating. And in fact, I don't think it's voiced by him. How funny would that be? It may be. I'm not sure if Orson Welles was still alive, but it's like he sounds just like him, which is hilarious. And their first nod to like, hey, you guys see what we're basing? Exactly. So Douglas Kane, he's on camera. He's like waxing philosophic about the size of the universe and how there's this vastness to it and so many things to explore and whatnot. And Grandpa Phil, he interjects and turns off the TV because naturally it's Halloween time and they've got to get to planning their annual Halloween party.
Nice.
So Arnold asks Grandpa if he and Gerald can help plan the party this year, but Grandpa Phil quickly rejects, claiming hilariously that Halloween is a serious business and it's not for kids. But it's like,
Grandpa,
it's like, wait a minute, but the whole trick-or-treating thing
is kids.
But in seriousness, Grandpa's implying that the party's going to be too scary. He wants to pull some terrifying pranks on people.
Like an adult party.
Exactly. And so the kids need to just run off and do their little cute kitty things. So Gerald and Arnold, again, like I mentioned before, wise beyond their years, they're annoyed with Grandpa's reasoning and like also the fact that like 2 minutes into the party planning committee and all the residents are like already bickering over who gets to wear what costume.
Oh, so they're gosh.
Like, they're not even mature enough to do this. How dare they criticize us? Yeah. So Gerald kind of like asks Arnold as they're walking away, like, so I guess we're just going to do our normal Halloween thing this year after all. And Arnold's like, you know what? No, we're going to prove that we're old enough to engage in the Halloween festivities and shenanigans. This year, we're going to pull a prank on Grandpa and the other residents. And we're going to make it have to do with aliens.
Nice.
So initially, they've got this little mischievous look in their eyes. But boy, oh boy, Grace, little did they know that this prank is about to get really out of hand.
Again, much like the historical moment.
Exactly.
Okay.
So the next day, a group of students from PS 118 is gathered in a vacant lot in the neighborhood, buzzing about the upcoming holiday, talking about what costumes they all want to wear, the trick-or-treating, all the fun they're going to have. And as it turns out, Helga, she actually saw her father and some of his friends watching UFO Tonight, that show with Douglas Kane, the night before as well. And she overheard him discussing the time that he actually encountered aliens and how terrified he was when he saw them, but also how much his friends didn't believe his story. So picking up on this, she's telling the group of kids from PS 118 in the vacant lot that they all need to nix their old costume ideas and agree to all dress up as matching big-headed gray aliens so that they can really scare the living frights or lights, whatever. Yeah, lights. Daylights, thank you, out of all of the adults in their neighborhood. So at first, the group is like, no, we already had all of our other plans and stuff. But as I mentioned before, Helga is very bossy and she is a bully in her own right. So the group reluctantly gives in.
Got it.
And coincidentally, although Arnold and Gerald are also in the vacant lot, they're like kind of doing their own thing and they aren't really in on the costume idea since they know that they already have their own prank going on. Yeah, but Arnold is like, he takes this opportunity though, realizing that it could help with their prank because they already know it's going to be alien involved. And he actually tells the whole group like, hey, yeah, but if you guys dress up as aliens, you guys are more than welcome to come to our party. We just won't be dressed up with you. But he doesn't really explain much more. And so the kids are all super excited, like, cool, like, okay, we'll definitely be aliens now. Yeah, this is like the hottest party in town, the Sunset Arms Halloween bash. Oh my God.
Dope.
Dope. Let's do it. So at that point, essentially, the entire fourth grade class at PS 118 is in one way or another in on this prank. And they're dividing and conquering on their plan to dish out the fright on Halloween night. Yes, I wrote that in.
Precious, except it's all gonna go horribly wrong.
Horribly wrong.
Or
horribly,
like
terribly wrong.
Way too well. It's confusing.
Little column A, little column B. I mean, yes and yes. I guess both things can exist. So
yes, okay.
I guess, yeah, by definition, the better a prank goes, the worse off the prank goes.
Yeah.
Right? So,
exactly. Okay. It's complicated.
So, Halloween night is off with a bang at Sunset Arms. The party inside is popping. Kids are constantly ringing the door for their tricks or treats. And Arnold and Gerald, at a certain point when, the crowd is a little distracted, they decide it's a good time to sneak away and get the prank started. Okay. And also because, just like the radio broadcast, they had a firm 8 p.m. start time for the prank to start.
Love it.
So they go up to the roof of the building, which is a common hangout spot for them because Grace, as you noted before, Arnold has that dope ass bedroom in the attic with the skylight. It's got roof access so they can just pop in and out, hang out on there. They like camp out on the roof all the time. Again, this was like the dream house growing up, watching the show as a kid. So anyway, on top of the roof of Sunset Arms, they've set up like this entire makeshift radio broadcasting set that they have also wired from the roof through the house and like connected to the radio system in Sunset Arms, which I know you're yes, it is impressive, but also not quite an oddity for Gerald and Harold. As I noted before, Gerald and Arnold. Harold is another character in the show. Sorry. I noted before, but Gerald is super creative and hip, and Arnold has this like really good sense of tech. Yeah, so they both like weirdly do know. Yeah, like they're always tinkering with different things, and like they are constantly like DJing stuff and playing like instruments and like hosting, entertaining people. They just like this isn't their first rodeo. If you watch other episodes of the show, like it kind of makes sense that they can do this, even though it doesn't really make sense that they can do this. Anyway, so Arnold, he's working the ones and twos and the sound effects, and Gerald with his, suave voice serves as the broadcaster.
Amazing.
The narrator. And he like fakes this like deeper, more animated voice for radio broadcasting. Like it's like clearly Gerald talking, but he isn't just talking as himself. He's trying to sound quite the part. And again, just exactly like carbon copy of the real life radio broadcast in 1938. After music is playing for a little bit, we hear the radio static kind of come in and out. And all you hear is Gerald over the other side saying, "We interrupt this broadcast for a special bulletin."
And wait,
go ahead. Yeah.
So the party was playing the radio and they just kind of like hacked the radio.
Yes, they like rewired shit. Yeah, so that it could be picked up exactly down on the first floor in the residence. So yeah, and they're like listening to the radio as the music for the party. So then after Gerald says, like, we interrupt the broadcast, he's like, a large saucer-like craft of unknown origin is reported to have landed on the outskirts of the city. And so then we like zoom back down into the party, actually, back in the tenement, and we see Grandpa Phil like quieting everyone and turning up the radio so that they can hear what's going on. Special bulletin. And Gerald continues, I repeat, quote unquote, there are reports of an alien spacecraft on the outskirts of the city. I'm at the scene where a small crowd is gathered around the scorched area where the saucer-like craft has landed.
Nice.
Like literally just like straight out of the book, out. It's the like radio, exactly what, yes. And then he like goes on and just gets so into it. Like, wait, the top of the craft seems to be opening. It's unscrewing the huge lid. And now it's opening. Oh my. And Arnold's like running around doing all these side effects like on noises. The roof. Like, yeah, exactly. To make it like releasing gas from a canister to make it sound like a hatch on a lid.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then Gerald's like, oh my God, something's coming out. It's revolting. I can hardly look. And like you hear just like cutting in and out. And so it like zooms back down to the tenement. And everyone in the party at this point is dead silent, looking around like, is this a joke or is this real?
Right, like what's happening?
Yeah. And elsewhere in the town, we then see a young man named Smitty, aka Smitty, come on, Smitty, aka an underpaid cameraman for Douglas Kane, the host of UFO Tonight. He's out patrolling the streets looking for any signs of a UFO or supernatural activity for Douglas's next broadcast of UFO Tonight. And he's like switching through radio stations while driving through the city, wondering how he's going to find aliens on Halloween night. Douglas is like very demanding and says he can't get off of his shift until he gets footage of something. Like that sounds like slavery, but whatever.
Where's the
IATSE? Boom. Honestly, the number of times we have mentioned IATSE in this podcast is like getting ridiculous. Why are cameramen and crew members always being exploited in these cartoons? Anyway, so poor Smitty, this young underpaid cameraman being forced to work at like 10 p.m., 9 p.m. on Halloween night. He is scrolling through the radio stations and somehow he comes across Gerald and Arnold's like hacked broadcast. Look, they must have got like created some sort of satellite dish or something too, because apparently it wasn't only linked into enough. Yeah. And actually we find out in just a second. Smitty was right down the road from Sunset Arms as he was patrolling. And he tunes into the broadcast just as Gerald is saying, quote unquote, 7 or 8 aliens have climbed out of the spacecraft. Oh, I see their leader. They're proceeding to the east side. I believe they're heading down Vine Street.
Oh my God.
Happens to be Arnold Street. And like Smitty looks out of his window and he's like, oh shit, I'm on Vine Street too.
Oh no.
So you see, Gerald and Arnold, they timed this perfectly because, like I said, they were coordinating with the rest of the kids at PS 118. And they knew, they were like, all right, they didn't tell the kids about the radio broadcast. They just told them to show up at Sunset Arms for the party in the full group, in full costume at 8 p.m.
Oh my God.
Oh. Once they saw them like a few blocks away from the roof, Gerald and Arnold, they're keep an eye. They're like, okay, cool. They're a few blocks away. Let's get started. So that right as Gerald got to that point of the broadcast,
they'd be on Vine Street.
And there is a knock at the door at Sunset Arms. And before Grandpa goes to answer the door, we see him trying to calm everyone down inside, because at this point they're like, dude, we're on Vine Street. This guy on the radio said this isn't a joke anymore. Why would they be this specific?
Yeah.
7 or 8 aliens. We got to go. So Grandpa's trying to calm everyone down. But then, as I said, there's a knock on the door. Okay. He opens it and it's all the kids. It's like Helga and all the other kids and like these big gray, big-headed gray with like red veins running through it and just like blue cloaks, like trick or treat, like in the cutest, happiest children's sound ever, or like voice ever. And Grandpa Phil just like screams in their face, like, it's the aliens, like freaks out. And so then literally everyone in the party just like stampedes out of there.
Scatters.
One of the residents, Ernie, he is a construction worker.
Yeah.
He grabs, I'm pretty sure, an axe and chases after
the children.
Yeah, so like half of the party scatters, the other half of the party forms an angry mob and starts chasing these aliens through town.
The kids are like, oh no.
Happening, because again, Arnold didn't tell them about the radio broadcast part of the prank, only about them scaring adults in costumes. So at this point, since Smitty is also on Vine Street, he sees these aliens walking up to Sunset Arms to ring the doorbell, and he quickly, he's getting his camera out of the car and he's trying to get any footage he can to have it directly fed back to Douglas so that he can then put it on live air and do his UFO Tonight show. But as Smitty is capturing footage, like while the half, fuck around and like escape crowd and half angry mob crowd are like chasing this group of kids away, in alien costume, he actually gets knocked over in like the fray. But it is terrifying actually. But since it's like so confusing and it's dark out and he gets knocked over, it like arguably does look like he gets a little bit of like alien footage, because he like, you see them, but there's so many shadows and just so much movement that it's like one of those like, like the Loch Ness Monster pictures or whatever. And it's like, is that Nessie or is that a boot that somehow is like
right, like him getting knocked down makes it more like, ooh, what happened?
Exactly. So this footage does make its way back to Douglas Kane, though, to his studio before it gets cut off when Smitty's knocked over and like, I guess like breaks the camera or something. And in a moment of over-sensationalized journalism, something we have talked about on this podcast before, Douglas Kane immediately, with just like this like 2-second snippet of very questionable and sus footage takes to the airwaves, cutting as off fact. Like in this as fact, cuts off whatever other like programming was on. You get like the we interrupt this broadcast and like the emergency sign or whatever. Yeah. And he immediately is just like, aliens have indeed landed among us. Like he just jumps right into it. Like aliens are here. They will take no prisoners. And their ultimate goal clearly is to enslave the human race.
Douglas.
Dude, Douglas. You saw 2 seconds of footage. And he's like, I have no other choice but to investigate and try to stop them myself. We will be on the scene. We're taking our crews now.
Oh my God. Hero complex, Douglas.
And somehow, I guess because, Gerald and Arnold, they're very creative. They were able to get this actually through satellite connection on the radios. Somehow Douglas is able to connect their fake radio transmission onto the live TV broadcast. So he's like in real time responding to this radio broadcast.
And they don't know, right?
And they don't know because they're too busy doing it. And they're like on the roof, just joking around, whatever. Yeah. No one's watching TV. Half the kids are being chased by an angry mob and the rest are on the roof. So And so while Douglas Kane is doing this broadcast, we then start to see people in their homes and like walking around the streets, like we're, how old time, like TVs and shop windows or whatever, like everyone is just like drawn into this, like exactly. The whole city stops to watch what's going on, listening to this broadcast. And then at this point of the broadcast, Gerald's like, I see it. It's huge. Like nothing I've ever seen. The mothership, I repeat, it's landed on Wells Ridge, which, Wells Ridge, call back to H.G. and Orson. Nice. And so he's like describing it like it's huge with rings of light around it. The mothership, it's going to attack us. And this is where the prank gets even more advanced, you guys. Ooh. Arnold and Gerald coordinated with yet another classmate at PS 118 who camped out at the local water tower at Wells Ridge and attached Christmas lights to it.
Which classmate was this?
Stinky.
Oh my God, yes, I had a feeling.
Stinky Peterson. Yeah, the tall country boy. Would do that for them. Yeah, he has no clue what's going on. He's like, I don't know. Arnold just told me to come here and put the lights on.
This seems fun, I guess.
Yeah, pretty much. Because right as Gerald gets to that part of the broadcast, turns it on. Arnold like radios over to Stinky, like, Stinky, hit the lights now. And because remember, so Gerald's saying the mothership is at Wells Ridge. So everyone like leaves their houses and starts to look over in that direction of the water tower. And at that exact moment, the lights all turn on the water tower. But unfortunately, so this somehow though accidentally causes it short circuits the energy grid in their town and shuts off all the power in the city to the point where the only thing lit up is the water tower now with the Christmas lights on it. So since everything is so dark, I could see how from like downhill, you just see like lights on the circuit. Exactly. And people are like freaking out like, oh shit, this is it. And at that point, the town erupts into chaos and panic, Grace. Panic. And so Gerald and Arnold are still on the roof of Sunset Arms and they see the lights come on and they're like, cool, all right, I guess it worked. And they're like, well, I guess we should go back down and see if this works. See if we scared anyone.
Did they not notice like people taking to the streets?
No, they're not yet. They're still on the roof. They're too busy. Like they're in character. Arnold's been like running around doing all these sound effects. They don't have time to look over anymore. Yeah. So they're like, all right, let's see if we scared people.
Oh my God.
And oh boy, did they.
This is
like the funniest shit ever, Grace. When they go back downstairs, so yeah, they get off the roof, they go back down to the party. The house is like cleared out though. So
we're like,
what the fuck?
Where's the party?
So they go outside to the backyard, which is like where their driveway is connected through, and it's like this fenced in backyard, whatever. And they go back there and they see Grandpa Phil just like in a couple of the residents, just like loading bags into Grandpa's car, like luggage.
Oh my God. They're on the move.
And we hear sirens going off everywhere in the city, like the bomb sirens, like
oh yeah. Yeah. Oh my God.
And the massive spotlights are like seen like shining in the sky, and like emergency lights, and you literally hear like, so okay, their backyard's fenced in, so you can't see the stuff, you just like see it you see the lights in the sky and like the sirens, and you just hear like people screaming and wailing on the streets, breaking glass.
Oh my God, was like rioting,
looting, rioting. You just hear calamity, and Gerald and Arnold are just like, Grandpa, did you like our prank? And Grandpa's like, no, wait, what are you talking about? Where you guys been? We need to get the fuck out of here. Aliens are attacking.
Literally, the city has gone vigilante.
City has fallen.
City has fallen.
And Arnold's like, it's all good, Grandpa. It was just us. We were pulling a prank on you guys to scare you. It looks like it definitely worked. And Grandpa's like, no, dude, seriously, look at the mothership over there. He like points over yonder. And hilariously, Arnold's like, Grandpa, that's the water tower.
Stinky's
up
like,
there.
Also, Stinky's just up there like chewing on a toothpick, just like
literally.
Oh, I guess it worked.
That's like literally what he's doing. He like is just like hanging out at the water tower still, and I'll get to that in just a second.
Okay, nice.
But like, yeah. And then at that point, Grandpa is like, but what about the aliens? All the aliens that came to the door. And Arnold's like, that was Helga and the other kids. And Grandpa just starts laughing like, oh, holy shit, good job, guys. That was amazing.
Well, like the city's in full chaos. There's no more authority. There's no more law. Good job.
Great prank. And he goes on,
People
he's like,
murdered, I think. Cool.
Possibly. But he's like, dude, so wait, how'd you guys get Douglas Kane in on it? And at this point, Arnold and Gerald are like, what? Excuse me? Douglas Kane? They're like, oh no, he must have picked up our broadcast. They're like, wait, did he like talk about this on TV? And Grandpa Phil's like, yeah, he's on air now. He's like going to the mothership to like live report this alien invasion. And Arnold's like, wait a minute. By the way, where are Helga and the rest of our classmates?
Being murdered with an axe by adults.
At that point, they just turn around, or like they like open the fence and look out the fence at what's going on the street, and you literally just see the whole crowd of them being chased by an angry mob like down the street. And Arnold is like, uh-oh, I think we took this a little too far. Right? So, okay. As the kids, still in alien costume, are being chased by this angry mob throughout the city, Helga's like, dude, guy, it's just us. It's the kids. We're the town's kids. You know us. Like, come on. And they're like, yeah, sure. That's exactly what an alien would try to say. And they're like trying to pull off their masks, and they're like, they're, big heads and everything in the paint, but it's just not working. And so as they're running away, Helga looks at the kid who was in charge of getting the paint and all of that for the costumes. Happens to be a kid named Harold, actually the one I mentioned earlier about having the bar mitzvah. He's not the sharpest tool in the shed. Interestingly enough, this is kind of an aside, but just to give you all a good picture of Harold. He has his bar mitzvah, which happens when you're 13. When he is in 4th grade. That's all you need to know. Or is it 12? When do you have a bar mitzvah?
I think it's 13.
13, okay. Yep. Regardless, he's in 4th grade. He's having a bar mitzvah. So
Not the
that should tell you
everything
you need to know about Harold. No offense. I understand, missing a grade or two or being held back a year or two, but at that point, that's like 5 years. So anyway, Harold explains to Helga that he bought face paint called permanent exterior latex because he figured they'd be outside all night. Permanent. And so they're like literally like trying to wipe it off as they run away, and it's just not working. So they decide to make their way towards Wells Ridge, as the water tower is like the only lit structure in town. And maybe there they can convince the angry mob of townspeople that exactly. But of course, this mob follows them there. So Grandpa, Gerald, and Arnold at this point, they hop into Grandpa's car and they're like driving through the city with the windows down with like a megaphone. Yeah, like, this is all just a prank. Please remain calm. Like, yeah, no one is fucking listening.
Well, that's not going to help.
Everyone is way too panicked to listen. The town, like I said, sheer chaos, like people breaking windows and screaming and wailing, and still like the sirens going on in the background. And so at this point, they're like, okay, we also need to just go to Wells Ridge because that's clearly where everyone is going to see this invasion. And also because maybe we can stop Douglas Kane and get him to like turn the news around so people calm the fuck down. That's obviously not happening though, because meanwhile, Douglas Kane and his camera team, they're like dispatching from their station. So you just see like all these news trucks like making their way up to Wells Ridge to record this impending alien takeover. And as he is recording in front of the water tower, Arnold, Gerald, and Grandpa arrive, and Arnold just like runs directly through the shot, like as Douglas is reporting. Like you see the group of the students in alien costume, like all running towards this UFO, this water tower for safety, I guess. But obviously Douglas Kane is like, look at them, the aliens are running back to their mothership, they're gonna get in and kill us all, etc. And Arnold's like, oh my god, I have to stop this. So he just like runs through, like pushes past Douglas. And Douglas is hilariously like, this brave young football-headed kid is gonna try to save us all.
Me, the adult, will stand by.
This football-headed youth is going to save us. this poor lost soul.
Brave sacrifice. I mean, boy.
Well, whatever. Ooh. So anyway, Arnold is trying to convince everyone, like, it's okay, guys. It's just the fourth graders. Look. But the mob has gotten a little too vicious on their trek from town up to the water tower.
They always do.
Grace, they set off an explosive on the water tower.
Excuse me?
I'm not going to get into the mechanics because there's a lot of stuff in the episode I'm kind of leaving out to just like focus on, because I don't want to get into like the character dynamics and stuff since it's not a show that we're really covering. But essentially Helga's dad makes this like beeper triggered bomb that he like throws at the water tower, whatever. There's some backstory there. Watch the episode on Hulu, everyone, if you're interested or don't remember. So yeah, they set an explosion off of the water tower, thinking it was the mothership. And I guess fortunately, although I guess you could say this is kind of an act of terrorism because it's like a public resource and everything. It's like you literally just ruin the town's water supply. But thankfully, the wave of water from the tower like falls right on all the students. And thankfully, it's able to wash some of the paint off, and like their big head, like little hat thingies are able to like fall. Yeah, their costume things kind of fall off. And it's at this point pretty fucking obvious that these are actually just a bunch of fourth graders.
I almost bombed you, daughter.
One of which is the daughter of the person. And he says that he's like, I almost killed my own daughter.
Yeah, you almost did.
You almost fucking did, dude. And so shortly after this, the lights are able to trigger back on, hilariously, thanks to Arnold's grandma, who, just as an aside, is like probably used to be like a spy or a mercenary or something, because she's a total badass. She's like scaling the water tower to like rewire shit. And like,
yeah, she always has that like side plot.
Exactly. She's like, has like the paint like under her eyes, like the beanie, the black tank top, and like army cargo pants, and like a like her like fanny pack. Yes, exactly. And she like always runs off. Like, actually, hilariously, I didn't include this in the script, but like at the point where Grandpa Phil and all them are like packing up the bags in the car to go, you just see him like, Pookie, come on, we gotta go. And she just like turns around and she's in that get up and she's like, don't wait up. And then she just like runs. She like runs off. And then the next time we see her is like rewiring the electric grid.
Don't wait up. An icon.
I love Pookie. Anyway, so yeah, the lights come back on. And people are like, okay, those are obviously fourth graders. And that is indeed the water tower. Oh, shit. How are we going to get our water back? Oh, well, we learned from our mistakes. And sorry. And so they're all, happy, friendly neighbors again. Angry mob has turned into this nice community walk, or essentially march back towards the city. And Douglas Kane is still narrating this event. It is a little awkward. Like, oh, we just tried to kill all your kids, but hey, let's piggyback ride home. More candy. And so Douglas Kane is narrating this event. He's like, well, it is now clear that this ridiculous hoax has just been nothing more than a ruse or something, something along those lines. And essentially the crowd is just like booing at him while he's like live reporting on this.
He like stokes the fire.
Exactly. They're like, you fucking idiot. We knew you were a fraud. You didn't research into any of this at all. This is all your fault.
Their children.
Kind of sorry. And so they make their way back to town as happy neighbors yet again, with Grandpa again commending Arnold on a prank well done. The end.
Wow. And then like they come back and Pookie's just back enjoying the party, cleaning up after the party. No traces of what she did.
Actually, hilariously, as they all leave, you see Pookie is again scaling the water tower, like putting more lights up, but like in the shape of a jack-o'-lantern, which is like super cute. And she like lights it, so there's like a big jack-o'-lantern on the water tower. She's still up to her shenanigans, her no good deeds. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and that is the tale of Arnold's Halloween, the tale of the War of the Worlds radio broadcast from October 30th, 1938. The fall of a city, both fictional and perhaps real life, at least in the case of Windsor, New Jersey.
Yeah, exactly. All of America on October 30th, 1938.
Yep. So,
wow.
Yes. So,
great job.
Thank you. And that's that brings us to an end of our Halloween special, our Halloween arc. Me too. It was fun. Can it be like Halloween all year? Yeah.
Also, I like that both of yours involved like
mass hysteria. Yes. I had that realization too. It's like, why am I talking about angry mobs so much?
I like that theme through it of like mass hysteria, violent mob. But
it goes in like so well with cases, Halloween,
like all like Frankenstein, like witch trials, like just ridiculous.
Yeah, over sensationalized. Like people being, pearl clutchy and like over sensationalized and just jumping to conclusions, or like living in isolation and not having like a larger worldview to like,
and just choosing violence
first and foremost.
Yes, they chose violence.
Like, no, we won't try to like negotiate with the aliens. This is not some sort of, alien diplomatic mission.
Nope.
There is no other obvious answer than that they are going to kill us all and enslave us. When he said that, dude, oh my God, watching the episode, I laugh so hard every time he does that, because it's like he sees 2 seconds of footage and he's like, they're here to attack, they're gonna kill us. There's no way. It's like, oh my God. And also it literally is exactly like news today. So anyway.
Anyways, great work.
Thank you. We hope you guys have enjoyed this little episode arc of ours. It's been really fun revisiting some classic Halloween episodes of classic animated shows. There are many more. So who knows? However long this podcast will go on, I anticipate us doing this again in the future, though. Yeah, more Halloween to talk about. but yeah, I guess we're gonna are we going back to our regularly scheduled programming after this, or are we doing something fun next month too?
I think stay tuned for some fun stuff next week. Some fun surprises.
Yeah. And November. We'll let you guys know then when that happens. But until then, until we drop the surprise of what we're doing throughout the month of November, Grace, who should the audience tell about this podcast?
I think you should find your local UFO chaser and let them know about this podcast. Who's out there watching the night sky, who's posting on some Reddit threads, who's real deep into the conspiracy of alien, or conspiracy theory style aliens. Not don't tell your local scientist who's actually researching the viability of other life on planets, which is okay. No, tell someone who's who went to Area 51 a couple years ago when everyone wanted to go storm it. Find that person.
My God, that was so funny. Let's talk
and tell them about this podcast.
That. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Wow.
Who else?
Wow, that's cool. I love UFO stuff, so it's I could actually think of some names of people to that end. You got Dr. Stephen Greer. He allegedly was a scientist working at Area 51 when all of that went down, and maybe
if you're his neighbor, let him know.
Let him know. There's the YouTube page Secure Team 10 that does a lot of UFO conspiracy researching and things like that. Tag them in a post.
Yeah.
Or the former frontman of Blink-182, Tom DeLonge, he has actually turned into a bit of a UFO investigator himself.
Oh.
So tweet at him or tag him on IG and tell him, hey, watch this episode of Saturday Morning Mysteries. And remember that time that, hey, Arnold pawned off of a freaking radio broadcast that sent the country into mass UFO hysteria.
Nice. You have to tell a famous UFO chaser as well. Yeah. Cool.
And that's it. Cool.
Yeah.
And also, guys, have a fun and safe and healthy and spooky Halloween, wherever you are in the country. If you celebrate, or if you don't celebrate, then just go buy yourself a couple candy bars and enjoy a couple spooky movies or haunted movies on your ooh, it's on a Monday this year. Yeah. Well, oh well. What better time to eat candy and watch a movie?
Are you gonna watch?
Oh wow. So I actually so I don't really watch a Halloween particular movie on Halloween, but I do this thing every October where every day I watch a different horror movie. So yes, it counts. I guess if you like the scary type of horror stuff, I'll always recommend Nightmare on Elm Street, any of the Freddy Krueger movies.
Nice.
But if you want more of a fun Halloween movie, then probably What We Do in the Shadows.
Nice.
Something like that, the Taika Waititi movie, or just classic Hocus Pocus. I think that you can never go wrong with those. What about you?
So go watch those. I go for the surprise, animated things.
Nice.
A hot debate of is Night Before Christmas a Halloween movie or Christmas movie? I call it both, so I can watch it twice a year. Yep. So that maybe
that's the only correct answer in my opinion.
Yeah, for Dia de los Muertos, maybe Corpse Bride. So any animated childhood movie is what we'll watch. So
lots of Tim Burton in there.
Yep, always. Maybe some Sweeney Todd.
Ooh, yes.
Musical, also Tim Burton.
Honestly, any Tim Burton movie for real. Is a good Halloween movie.
Yep, agreed. Well, have a good Halloween, everyone. We'll see y'all next week.
Bye.
All right, bye.
Thanks for tuning in to Saturday Morning Mysteries.
If you enjoyed this episode, please share, rate, review, leave us a like, and drop a comment. We post episodes every Saturday and bonus tune tangents whenever we feel like it. So please subscribe so you don't miss the shenanigans.
And if you want to follow us on YouTube, click the bell under the YouTube subscribe button to receive notifications when new videos are posted.
And if you want to subscribe to the podcast, we have no idea what you're listening to us on, so just hit the big subscribe button on whatever app you're using. We believe in you.
Give us a follow on Twitter and Instagram at SatmornMist, all the abreves, and let us know if you have any episode or show requests by emailing SaturdayMorningMysteries@gmail.com.
Thanks to Jenna Kendall for the logo design and to Ava Sakiki for the music used during this week's episode.
See y'all groovy kids next week on Saturday Morning Mysteries.